Welcome to The Brief, another session of Block Chat. Yet this time we shed a spotlight on a member of our team at Blocksquare. As you know, we're a startup which have been achieving for a few years now, and many of our community members do ask, who's your team, what are they all about, and what's the vision? And whom is it better to start with but one of our advisory board, one of our mentors, and a visionary who believes in what we do and believes in the route we're going for. Akim, how are you?
Hi,
Achim
Makram. Great.
Jedelsky, hi. Welcome on The Brief. Today is a session of Spotlight. We'll enjoy it. I hope that we can add value to our community and everyone listening to us. Let me tell you some details about Akim, guys. Akim is a corporate guy. He's someone who have lived through corporates within several of them. One of which I would mention is Daimler Real Estate. And yes, Daimler Real Estate is part of Daimler Group. I'm sure you know Mercedes of it. I'll not tell you much more about Akim. I'll leave him because I'm sure he can do himself a better service talking about himself. But I will start after that immediately by a deep dive on Akim's vision. What does he see and what does he see we are going to, and where does he want us to go? A mention here that Akim is one of the visionaries that are rare, guys. He dedicates so much time to Fibri, which he co-founded along other members. Fibri is the foundation of international blockchain and real estate expertise, and it takes so much of dedication and hard work to pull off such an organization and make it achieve, especially at such a time where most of things are built on hype. Akim, tell us more about you and why.
Yeah.
Why would be driving a driving force behind such advancement and technology integration as you are?
Yes. Yeah. Thanks, Makram. Yeah.
Thank you.
So why I'm doing this? Yes. Obviously, I'm coming from the real estate background. So I was a trained architect and worked in different positions in real estate, and in project management and management positions in different countries. And I think for quite a while I was kind of taking the intersection between real estate and IT as one of my core interests. And a couple of years ago, I got into blockchain, and so first on a private level, and then I as well did pilot projects at my employers, like at Daimler, for example, and try to kind of use the technology for real estate and to change the industry to the better. And by doing that, I started a community, a meetup community here in Berlin, in Germany. And when we founded Fibri, together with co-founder and CEO of Blocksquare, Dennis, as well, we actually wanted to create a link between different local organizations or meetups like we had at that time, and to kind of help other people to do the same like we did, and as well to exchange knowledge across borders. And I think that's basically the answer to your question as well. I think what drives me is to help innovation grow and to bring people together, and that's pretty much what Fibri is about, like a community of engaged people who want to achieve something, who want to innovate, and who think outside of the box, and in general want to improve the industry we're working in. And that's basically like what makes things
drives
happen.
you forward.
Exactly.
Look, as a president of, and I see how much effort does it take you being the president of Fibri, as well as having other roles. However, there is a question that I have in my mind, and I'm sure many would ask. As somebody who comes from a corporate background, you've been head of IT processes at Daimler, and you've had other similar roles. To be involved in startups today, why and what's the difference? What do you see that you enjoy within the startup world that you haven't seen within the corporate world?
Yeah, I think the corporate world is really good in implementing and really delivering and scaling solutions. But it's a challenge often to actually start something from bottom up. And obviously, like with talking about blockchain, it's something that takes time to adapt and to implement. And so I've always found it really exciting to meet startups, and I think like Blocksquare and like is one of the startups I met early days, and like the engagement and the dedication people put into actually creating something new. I think I found this always is a really great attitude and a great way of improving and innovating. And I always try to combine this with the energy and the power that you find in corporates. So as much as I kind of looked for the intersection between IT and real estate, I kind of try to kind of fill that void, or like make this bridge between like corporates and startups. And because obviously for startups, I mean, in order to really deliver their solutions, they need to have like this bigger partners at some stage, at least to actually demonstrate that they're capable of changing on a larger scale as well. And the corporates on the other side, they like to, I mean, for them, it's much easier to get the innovation from a smaller player as to develop it themselves.
And that's great, by the way, for us, for example, at Blocksquare, having someone like you with that kind of background lays that bridge and allows us probably a different dynamism and a different aspect to our business. Let me talk here to Akim, the visionary. Akim, and this question was inspired by a question we got yesterday on our live blog chat. So we're 2030. We all know that there's currently many challenges whenever you talk about tokenization of real estate. There's legislative challenge, funding challenges, because people are following the hype most probably, and for anyone who's doing something fundamental, it will be tough to come up with the funding. Let's, however, say, and it will surely be sorted sooner rather than later, it's sorted, we're beyond that already. We're in 2030. Can you please draw the scenery for me at that time?
You mean in terms of use of tokenization, or in the whole blockchain topic?
Yeah. So you can start by defining what's happening in a land registry on that day, and anything else that you see.
Yeah, to be honest, I mean, obviously, like being in this kind of industry for a while, and obviously we had a lot of these hypes and expectations. And to be honest, I think I probably speak for everybody listening. The expectations are usually much higher than that what's delivering. Obviously, often if you look back, then you actually get a different picture, because then you realize how much you actually changed and achieved. But like if you're in it, you always feel like underachieving. At least that's often what I feel like, because you want to be faster and you're never as fast as you want. So to be honest, like when I look in the future and think about like application of blockchain, like let it be in tokenization or other topics, I actually wish and hope that we don't talk about the technology anymore, that we talk about decentralized or like distributed applications in a more kind of, let's say democratic environment, and less about these centralized powers, less about like this one entities and players who actually dominate the market, and as well dominate innovation, so that we actually achieve something on a broader scale. And again, I think with Oceanpoint, and I think this is really going there to creating platforms and ways to engage on like different topics, like obviously like real estate tokenization being like the core topic, and to lay this infrastructure level where we all can build on wherever we're from, and so it doesn't matter on what kind of environment you grew up or you live, so you can utilize this layer for the innovation you want to drive.
Give me one piece of... Yeah, go ahead, please. Go ahead.
No, this would be like the image of the future I'd like to see in that time.
To be honest, I didn't expect that question, that answer, but now it triggered something in my head. Yes, the minute that we stop talking about tech and it becomes a normal part of our life, we would have achieved at that time probably ultimate adoption, yeah? Similar to how today no one talks about the penetration of mobile phones into our lives. So
exactly.
As long as we're talking about it, it means there's still a drive, a push towards making it happen. But the minute that we stop talking about it, it happened. So
exactly, yeah. And I think it's as well still like a barrier. So because they're non-tech people, who are as creative and innovative as many others, but they feel you mentioned topics like blockchain and tokenization, and you lose them because they feel like irritated by that. And I think we need to provide like an entry level which makes it as easy as possible for people to engage on that and to actually use it, like the qualities of these technologies, to solve their problems and to apply innovation.
So should we stop talking? Again, you triggered so many thoughts here in my head. Should we stop talking tokenization? Should we start talking the result that happens post tokenization? So that people, because people are driven by the result, nobody is driven by the technology. Technology is not a fancy thing that exists for tech. Technology is there to improve people's lives and more convenience. So do you really think we should do, maybe someone like Steve Jobs would come one day and say, you know what, I want to make an application, he made a mobile, that's very easy to a limit that my 7 years old uses it much better than me. So he teaches me how to use an Apple phone, an iPhone, most of the time. So do you think that we lack someone in our industry, or which is an intersection between two industries, who would come and talk the result in a way that my father would understand and be able to sink into?
Yeah, I think obviously I think at different stages we need different people, and I think in an early stage we need people talk about the qualities, like the problem solving capabilities of these concepts and ideas, and not so much about the technology. Obviously, the technology is key, so obviously we can't remove this. This is actually enabling everything. But I think the more we kind of progressing and want to kind of use this technology in a wider scale and yeah, for more people, we have to leave this kind of early adopter sphere, where maybe the knowledge you have is like the prerequisite in order to have the conversation. So I think this is really something that is very important. And so I found it always interesting, like, I don't know, the when I do presentations, I always think, oh, I should do a new presentation, not always like talk about all the stuff, but I still see that the education and the teaching about the basic topics, the basic approach is very much the key for the adoption still. So this shows me that we still have some way to go, and the technology is probably even 2-3 steps further already. But in terms of application and kind of connecting it to the issues we have, we still have a bit to go.
So let's take a difficult challenge, me and you here on this spotlight. Can we, in few statements, define examples of how should the results of technology be presented to the world today to impact really my father and people his age and his generation, and allow them to integrate? Because today I'm sure they love iPhones and probably they love Android phones and many other phones, but I would say iPhones because to me they're the easiest to use. I'm addicted to them because I started using them, and once they captivate you within their environment, it's difficult to exit. So for example, if I want to think about one, I would say, rather than me saying, guys, let's tokenize property today, we would say, guys, how about allowing more people access to your property so that they can be shareholders in it? And then I present them with the tokenization as a solution to achieve that. Can we have 2 or 3 that are similar to that? Would you be able to give me one now?
Yeah, I can try, definitely. So maybe to one step back. So if you like the comparison you gave with the iPhone or with the mobile, what I was thinking that, like, if you ask people, I think, I don't know the concrete data, but people usually use 4 or 5 apps on their mobile. So if you then ask your father, maybe the reason why he loves an iPhone or like a mobile is that he uses WhatsApp. I don't know, because he can chat with his kids and nephews, and grandchildren. So that is actually why he loves the phone. So, and he doesn't care if it's an Android or an iPhone or whatever. So this is actually the value he has for that. And so there we should start. Everything else is kind of obviously a requirement, but in that moment, it's completely not relevant.
So what is that app? What's the WhatsApp in our industry today?
Yeah, that's a good question, because you said like tokenization of my building. So what to be honest, that is not a value for me if other people have access to my building in terms of like investing money in it. So for me, there would be another reason to have this. So I want to have more liquidity, or I want to have maybe something else. So this I want to have, and then the means would be using tokenization for that, or whatever. So I actually don't even care if it's tokenization, as long it delivers what I actually in that moment want.
So what you're saying is perfect. Actually, when I started the idea of Real Estate 6.0, I didn't know blockchain. I haven't heard of Bitcoin at that time. Yeah, 7 years ago, I was lately introduced to Bitcoin. So at that point of time, I didn't know what's blockchain. And my thought was that it's not logical that Apple and Alphabet can be traded at $1,000 or $100 or $90 at that time for Apple a share, while my home is $1 million a piece. And it's logical that this is a much easier asset to understand and value and trade. So why can't we do the same? And then when I understood distributed ledger technologies and blockchain is one of them, I said, oh, wow, then here is a solution, is a tool. So to sync exactly for what you're saying. So what you're saying is that today we need to talk liquidity. Today we need to talk accessibility. Today we need to talk diversification. Today we need to talk transparency. So it's the results that we have. And then we give people the ability to choose the tool to achieve that. Now, I believe there's no better tool today than distributed ledger technologies and blockchain as a main one. Okay, probably with time there may be, because every technology is transitory. There are no technology that will live forever. But today, that's the best solution. This is what you're saying, Akim. Okay, so again, let me here talk to Akim, the visionary. But prior to talk about the future, let me talk about the past and the current. Give me, please, one technology that you've seen, because I'm sure that you've been in tech for a very long time. You have been a tech creator, and you've formulated how tech should be used, and processes and dynamics. And so I want to understand from you one tech piece that passed over the past 20 years that you felt it will achieve huge, but it died without it doing anything. It disappointed.
Disappointed. Okay. So usually I would have answered like it's about the internet protocol, obviously, but that didn't die, obviously. So because what enabled us to send emails really revolutionized like the communication and like exchange of knowledge. But obviously this didn't die off. So thinking about technology that didn't really kick on. I'm sure there's a lot, but obviously because of it didn't really deliver. I don't wouldn't know.
So you're concentrating on what delivered. So give me one that delivered big time over the past 20 years that you've seen and you said, wow, this is amazing.
Yeah, but I think that's probably you don't see like the internet protocol, for example, like you don't see it, but it delivered big time all the time. And it's completely, I mean, like even it's just like the infrastructure that enables everything and enabled all these companies to actually build their value on top of it. And I really like this comparison because I see that with a lot of blockchain projects, it's the same challenge. So you build the infrastructure, you build the roads for cars that are like sports cars that will be built in future, but without having that road, these cars are completely useless. So and obviously but still in the future, like you will not look at the street say, wow, what a great street this is. No,
what an
you
achievement.
Just use it. Yeah, it's but obviously if you don't have it, you might lack it and you will miss it. And
yeah, if we think about it, there would be no cars without streets. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so a Range Rover maybe, but yeah, but that's pretty much it. And I see that always as a challenge for like adopting the like, solutions we're talking about. that we actually have to build the streets by developing the solutions, and this is kind of an unbalance. Like it's a really, really big task. So, and then again, that's the reason why we maybe often have bigger expectations than we see solutions growing, because we're still ready, like digging the street more or less, and before we actually can start providing the nice solutions.
So in other words, hopefully very soon the infrastructure will be taken for granted. And when our infrastructure is taken for granted and all what we design today and the architecture is taken for granted, it means that we've reached a point where it has become basics in life and it's needed.
Exactly. Yeah.
Amazing point. Akim, can you tell me one thing that we're doing right at Blocksquare? And please don't tell me nothing.
Okay. No, but I think, I mean, the one thing I always talk to people about, like I would really shift it even to Oceanpoint, I guess. Obviously, that's Blocksquare. Because what I think is great and what caught me, like, is like to interlink this DeFi, high liquidity DeFi market with this this really solid real estate market. And because that will really like kind of build a bridge and connect something where both sides, and I talk to both like technology provider as well as real estate owners, and they say, yeah, okay, that's actually makes sense. This is really helpful, and that's often even without one knowing about the other side. But they kind of figure, okay, there's some, I'm not really good in this, and there's an industry that is really good. Like, so I'm a provider of DeFi protocols. I'm really big in this, but I see the value of a building and like the solidity of a building is something I cannot provide. But if you manage to match this and to bring it together and create like some like solutions in between that take more or less the best of both worlds, then both sides always see, okay, wow, this is something we're talking about. This really makes sense. And that is, maybe this is what you were fishing for earlier. So this is like this wow moment where you think, yeah, wow, that's the right direction. And so obviously that is what I see as well. And okay, it's a long way still. It's a long road and it's a big task, but there's a really clear value proposition for two different industries. And so I think this is a very, very big
because it talks about the result, yeah, and it doesn't tell people how does the engine work. So today, if somebody buys a Mercedes, it doesn't care of how does it work. What they care about is that the new S-Class does have this technology, and this is what it offers. This is what it delivers. So people want the deliverables, and probably with Oceanpoint, they can see a clearer cut to the deliverables, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay,
exactly.
So I want to ask you a question, which I'm not sure you would like to look at usually. If you see at Blocksquare, we are in general conservative when it comes to hype, because we believe in fundamentals and we believe that whatever is grown by hype in general dies by hype. Yes, there's great things that have been grown by hype and continue to deliver on the hype that has been grown. Similar to Tesla profits, for example, a few days ago. Regardless, the current situation is that we do not go by hype and we try to do everything organic. Do you really believe that that's the right route to build on strong fundamentals, or do you believe that no, some hype wouldn't harm at all?
Yeah, definitely. I think obviously that's as well what I learned from Fibri, like to have a strong community actually enables you to do anything else on top. It's often not the fastest route, because I mean to grow a community and to especially in a niche, like in the tech niche and the industry niche, it takes some time, but it's really a very good and solid foundation in order to build on top of it. And I think for the tasks like Blocksquare and Oceanpoint has ahead, like this growing and engaging community is essential and the prerequisite for actually delivering on their goals. And again, for me, this is part of this new world you might envision it in 2030, like this distributed connection. So it's not about, and I think that's the trade-off maybe, at some point, it's not about Blocksquare to decide how Oceanpoint will develop in the future at some point. It will be like the community will be more and more a strong part of it, and even the defining part of it. And obviously, if you talk to a business founder about this, they would say, "Well, what are they talking about? That's my company. I don't want it." But I know that Blocksquare is not thinking like that.
Yep.
And that obviously in the hype you cannot actually do this, because in the hype it's about, let's be honest, it's about the dollars. People are running after the cryptocurrency because of the dollars. Fair point. No complaint about that. But in order to grow a lasting solution, this cannot be the number one goal, and it has to be more like fundamental founding and a stronger vision, a long-term vision that actually pulls that off.
You talked here about something that's amazing, becoming a DAO. Yeah, we are a DAO that currently probably doesn't act perfectly as a DAO because not everything is decided by the community, but the hope, and this is what Dennis, the CEO, talks about every day. We need, at a point of time when Dennis stops being important, and Akim stops being of that importance, and Makram stops being of that importance, at that time we would have achieved what we needed to do, which is the power is in the hands of the community. Can you tell me how do you envision that? Because you're a process guy, you're a process-driven guy, and you're a leader of organizations and of movements. So you understand the processes and the challenges within them pretty well, much more than most of people I know, including me. How would you define becoming a DAO, and what do you see are the advantages and the tipping points of when do we become a DAO, a proper DAO run?
I think the challenge is obviously you have to define the essentials without creating a framework that is limiting the flexibility of the community and the growth and the breathing of the community. So I think this is a really big challenge, and obviously we've seen many DAOs fail because there were mistakes being made. There were just decisions couldn't be really supported by the community. Then it's breaking apart. So I think that's a fragile way to actually find the balance between structuring and to be honest, on the other side, you cannot ask too much of a community. So people have limits how much the time and effort they want to commit to some project. So you have to find a reasonable balance between a company like Blocksquare, having the vision, setting the frame, and then when you let go, when you let it develop further and moving out of it, and without that being too early and everything is collapsing. And again, I have to, this relation to Fiverr, that's the same challenge we have there as well. I mean, you know it as well. So it's a lot has to be kind of pushed through by the few really engaged members. But once you kind of have it rolling, then it's really picked up by the community and carried away. And it's not an easy task, and it's really the challenge to find this balance and to not do too little, but not do too much.
Okay, so here you're touching on a very important point, letting go control, but also keeping the main points that you need to control to make sure that everything is still sticking together and being picked properly by the community. Yeah. And so the tipping point you see is when the community really engages, and then you do not need to drive this any further. The community is driving it through self-motivation and self-cultivation. Is exactly, this the tipping point?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Akim, let's introduce everyone to you personally as a person. Where have you been brought up, and tell us more about school, university, and what do you do other than being on the advisory board of Blocksquare and Oceanpoint, as well as being the president of Fiverr and a co-founder of Fiverr. What do you do other than that? And how did it start? So let's start from the upbringing.
Okay, well, Yeah, so okay, I'm from Germany. I lived and studied in Germany and the West and East. So that's like I like kind of was like the reunification of Germany actually enabled me to study in the East. So I'm coming from the rest of Germany. So that's, I think, probably maybe interesting. At least it was interesting for me. And so I studied as well in Sweden and in Belgium. I did an MBA. I lived and worked in the UK a couple of years. Worked 1 year in New York and in the US. So I had a period of my time where it was quite like all over, more or less. And well, you're asking, so what am I doing else to what you just mentioned? So actually, it's mostly family. So obviously, like I have 2 kids, a wife here in Berlin. So like next to what I just
What's
talked
the
to you
ages of
about,
your kids?
9 and 10 years.
Does any own an NFT?
No, not yet.
Does
So actually,
does any one of them have interaction with the metaverse?
not yet. No, they
Not really.
actually. I have to like I had to take their mobiles away due to not compliant compliance. Then currently they would have issues to access their funds. Yeah. No.
So they have the mobiles. They have mobiles.
Yeah, well, sometimes, but most
Okay.
of the time not.
Okay. And do you really believe that they properly integrate with that world, or and they are wired to integrate with it much better than us, or not really?
It's yes and no. I think it's the same. I wouldn't say that it's too much different from like how we've been as a kid. Obviously, they really like sink into the whole like gaming and like even like watching movies or whatever. All that is really obviously a very strong component, much stronger than maybe for us. But you as well see, and that's maybe like something where I wonder how it will develop with the metaverse. But because if the guys are playing computer for an hour, afterwards they completely off balance. So they're really not, you hardly can communicate with them. It's like they get into fights very quickly. So I wonder how it will be if they kind of spend their time in the metaverse, how they actually will be able to communicate outside of it anymore. So I still think the value of like real interaction is really, really invaluable. So you cannot take that away. I think again there we're talking about balance. Like obviously for some things it's really great to have this gaming experience, to have digital interaction. But that's, I mean, I mentioned like taking away the phones from my kids because I was really open about this, like giving it to them, and I just saw it's not working, and so we had to step in, and I think it is something we have to consider.
Do you think that the metaverse will really impact their education? The future of education is on the metaverse. I feel that way. I believe that way. Do you really believe that or not? Have you thought about it?
I see it
before?
rather as a component. To be honest, I don't really see it like as the number, like the only place, or because there's too much. I mean, in a way, I have the feeling that with the metaverse, a lot of mistakes that we did in the real life or like years ago, we start doing again. And so we kind of create the same like issues we that makes us actually leave reality to go to the metaverse. So there I'm always a bit puzzled. So why is that? Why are we keep doing the same issue, the same problems?
Don't you feel it's a safer zone to do those mistakes? So our kids can experience those in a safe environment, in a controlled environment, rather than in an uncontrolled environment.
I think you can argue about this. I mean, if they lose your NFTs valued like $1 million in the metaverse, it's different values you're talking about than maybe the money they have in their pocket. So I guess that there are too many undefined parameters to actually answer that question like properly. And but it's definitely something we have to consider when building further on the metaverse. What what does it mean about the interaction? I'm just puzzled. Like it's like this. It's like the mentality you maybe know from the US when the West was won. Like, so the people running in and putting their pole in the ground, say that's mine now. No, I sell it off for lots of money. The same kind of mechanism I kind of see in the metaverse now. People are running into it,
It's
and
a
they
gold
just want
rush.
to, yeah, they just want to kind of claim their spot, and the only motivation is to make a lot of money out of it. And that's what I mean. It's like, so this mechanism, obviously, they let us in the real world up until today, and it didn't always bring up the best in us. So now we have this kind of clean slate to start over, and we have the same mechanism all
We're doing
over
the same
again.
again.
Yeah. And then I wonder, so why should I leave this world for that world? And it's just shifting around. So it's just some other people might be the lucky ones. So maybe I am that. So then it might be I might be in favor of it, but. The metaverse I would like to see is like to learn from the mistakes we made, and to have this open metaverse, to have it like to try to tackle different issues. Like, I mean, education is number one, and not like others, and like to make things accessible for everybody. So I mean, like the internet should have been, and as well, kind of maybe didn't really hit the goal we hoped for it. So I think it's a big challenge to do it right.
Here, a very important question when it comes back to tokenization of real estate. Do you see a main difference between NFTs and so non-fungible tokens and fungible tokens? So why would we create NFTs of real estate or fungible tokens of real estate?
I guess I think to create different relationships to it. I think if you link it, obviously if you have the linkage to real life asset, in some circumstance it might be like essential to the value of it that you actually have an NFT. And obviously, talking about real estate tokenization, the opposite is the case. So you actually want to break your $1 million real estate down in many small pieces. So I think it's a lot about the application and the context you're using it, and so how you actually market it as well. So like, to be honest, I never really could explain why NFT is suddenly so much of a hype, because obviously it wasn't that new.
I can tell you, because of the bananas. so okay, let me tell you the story of the bananas. So
yeah.
I have a partner in a company called GM Research and Advisory. So what we do there is we're a crypto think tank, and the creation of that happened. That company happened because I don't understand the crypto. I wanted to invest in crypto. Obviously, I'm not a speculator. I don't invest in things I don't understand. So I wanted somebody who understands crypto and I can trust to invest for me. So that gentleman was a friend and understood it and made so much money for his family on it. So I said, let's start that as a closed fund, and it evolved to become a think tank. So we were at the point where we're writing the white paper and the vetting processes and the risk scorecards for that. So it's critical for us because we're writing those for the fund. And Fadl is his name. He disappears for a few nights. And he tells me, sorry, man, I'm not sleeping all night. I know I need to finish those, but it will take me a few more days. And I told him, why? What's happening? He said, I thought there's something wrong. He said, man, you can't imagine. I'm harvesting bananas. Okay, so I said, what do you mean? He said, man, I'm making around $100,000 a night. Okay, so what do you mean? What's happening? So he owned some NFTs, probably some apes, and those apes gave him bananas, and those bananas had a value at that time. So while he minted each of those apes for 0.3 Ethereum or whatever, at the time when Ethereum was $600, at that time each ape was worth 40 Ethereum or 50 Ethereum, and Ethereum was $4,000 or $3,500, and he was harvesting bananas that are worth much more than in his investment from each of those apes every night. So why would he sleep? Definitely he wouldn't. So the NFT craze, I believe, is it has sexiness to it. There is many elements that attract people, and as you said, what mostly attracts people is money making, or the hope of making so much money, and that's why many people speculate rather than invest. While if we really look at it, even things that succeed, and I say it every day, guys, the internet became the future. In the 90s, when people were looking at the internet and they believed it is the future, they were all right. Every single one of them was right. The internet became the future. Today, you don't need to exit your house. You're doing everything on the internet. You couldn't believe our lives 20 years ago. I didn't know how did they live, or how did they used to live at that time. So, yet, although the internet was the future, and they were right about that, from around 3,000 companies that were driving the future, maybe 300 survived. So even if it is the future, it doesn't mean that you will all make money off it. Most of you will not, okay? And that's why you need to understand fundamentals. You need to understand the future and where we're going. Akim, I enjoyed so much the chat with you. Is there anything you would like to tell our community that you haven't told them already?
No, just I think maybe our talk, or like it can be an encouragement for everybody to just engage in it. And I think especially for people who are not really tech savvy, I mean, there's so much ways to actually access knowledge and to look into it. And I think you don't have to be a tech expert to actually understand it, because there's, I think our discussion showed a lot of social components that we kind of creating or recreating within this context, and so we need any input for that, and it shouldn't be left to only tech people. Nonetheless, they're really important, and it should be as accessible as possible. So I just encourage people to maybe look behind the hype and just try to figure out how that can be useful and interesting for them.
And we encourage people who are part of the industry to talk the language that non-tech people like me understand, because if we don't understand the tech language, we would not be able to really communicate with that industry in a proper manner.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Achim Jedelsky, president and co-founder of Fibri, part of our advisory board at Blocksquare and Oceanpoint. Thank you so much for all the energy you put with us, for all the support, for being that visionary who believes that much in the future, in what we're doing, and for driving all of those initiatives forward. Today, guys, we got introduced to Akim, the man, Akim, the professional, the corporate guy, Akim, the visionary, Akim, a member of Blocksquare and Oceanpoint's team. I hope that we've added value to your day. Thank you so much. Akim, thank you for your time and for all the input.